Well, hello again. It's been a while since we've last done a recording, and we're going to go a little off topic, a little away from the center of the earth today. We are going to talk about UFOs as we've been listening to some radio shows and questioning where they come from, who they are, and what's going on.
Hey, this is Tony.
Last night we were listening to a show where they were discussing how some hybrids, part human, part alien, have come to Earth and are walking amongst us. And I began to question why they would want to blend in and if they were actually here to learn something or here to run away from something and what that something might be.
Yes, that I thought that the question that Chris rose yesterday, after listening to a few Coast to Coast with mainly David Jacobs and a few other hybrid um, investigating professionals, I guess, that were guests. And the reason why I was listening to that stuff was, I guess, to find out more about Rh negative, different people that don't seem to fit in, plus the future of the human race, because that is the peak of the the mountain of extraterrestrials and aliens and UFOs. Because when the investigators interview everybody, the root question and aim for every person's brain is why, and the answer to that, after all their investigations, leads to a hybrid program. And then the why of that is, I guess, to integrate with humans. And Chris brought up a really good point last night, is why would they want to hide? And then I was thinking too, you're right, why would they want to hide amongst us and blend in? Because the newest generation of hybrids, they're blending in so much that nobody can even notice that they have larger eyes or that they seem different. They just completely blend in. So what are they hiding from, was Chris's question, when they could just completely obliterate us and overtake us all, and then occupy Earth with their own root bodies and organisms.
It brings up a question. I'm wondering if they're coming to our country to kind of take over in a way. Are they also infiltrating the humans with diseases to make them die off?
I don't know, maybe, but then they could just kill us off altogether all at once. Because I mean, they can just evaporate or abduct everybody and send them into some other dimension. So why aren't they doing that? But the reason why this pertains to what's at the center of the earth is because this is a root answer for what life is. And the reason why we want to find the center of the earth is to find out what's below and what's above and all that stuff. And initially, I'm still at a crossroads and at the indecisive point of not knowing whether this is a spiritual phenomenon where if you pray to God then you're safe and you serve God and you're not outside of his creations and nature, then you're safe, or if this is from something completely outside of that, and if it's an actual material non-spiritual phenomenon.
If it is not spiritual, then do you think God has any control over these beings?
Well, who knows? That, yeah, that goes into the aspect of why they're not destroying all humans altogether, and also
Maybe God has some control over us and what happens to us. And so they.
yeah, if they're from like a different, because I was telling Chris, I was reading the Gnostic Bibles and stuff like that talk about the different earths and the different realms and heavens that were made, and there's like 360 days in a year, which seems weird that we now have 365, which a full circle is 360 degrees, and also how the different amounts of supposed heavens with firmaments, they use the word firmament in it, so maybe there are these different earth worlds with firmaments, and they evolved in the way that they look on a different one, and they interdimensionally through high technology were able to come here. Because it seems like with a lot of the abduction experiences, they're having humans from this generation and age look at screens and see horrifying results of their misdeeds and actions for treating the earth poorly, for treating other humans poorly. So it seems like they're trying to teach us to not get destroyed in this dome, in this current firmament of heaven. So maybe they figured out how to not get destroyed by the god of their firmament, and they're trying to teach us that. And maybe they have an agreement with the god of our firmament that says, we'll keep your humans and keep it somewhat normal while also integrating our advanced non-destructive traits into your creation or something.
That makes me think of Admiral Byrd and other stories of below the earth. And when they said that they had spoken to people, the biggest message was how we were destroying our planet. So it would kind of make sense that aliens might be coming here to kind of subtly teach us something.
But I don't want to get too far away from the good point that you made up of, if it is so subversive and they are replacing us, then like professor of Temple University David Jacobs says, it's with evil intent, because replacing us would be destroying our former wholeness and selves. So, but Chris said, well, so from the perspective, and like, because man, David Jacobs and a lot of the other ones say the person at the top is the mantis looking beings, which is kind of insectoid looking. They call them insectoids. He said that a lot of them say that the reptilians are not really that prevalent in abduction experiences and encounters. And so he says that pretty much the top is the mantises. Everything else is a hybrid experiment creation from the mantises. That's why the grays have big eyes. If you look at a photograph on the internet of a praying mantis, it looks exactly like basically the depictions of the leaders and the authoritative figures from abductees encounters. And then you look at the next level down, mixed with a human, is the gray. They have vestigial mouths and noses. David Jacobs mentions why would they have that unless after his 35 years of investigative research, he comes to the assumption that those are just hybrids that are used like drones with no real reproductive or experiential sensory organs. They're just there to serve and do work, whilst the upper level mantises tweak and work with integrating into the human genome. So basically, it's kind of surprising that reptilians really aren't an equal fighting force. And he also says that about the Nordics. They're like a fifth generational hybrid species mixture that the mantises, have allowed to use their technology to assist with the abduction programs and the kind of self-awareness experiences that they're forcing upon humans, which when you think about it, humans are good and bad, and if you add enough of the bad up, it completely blocks out the good and eventually eats itself, which is what we're seeing the fruits of right now. So from that perspective, I guess it doesn't seem like they're hiding from something, but still they are.
And I wonder, have any of the abductees ever seen the mantis? Because if they're running the show, what would their purpose be in coming down here? If they're sending these other creatures as insecticides to do their work, why would they need to come here themselves?
Well, they've got to make decisions, I guess, when the Greys or a hybrid wants like just things that I've read, anecdotes. The hybrid female on a ship wanted her human abductee to stay longer with her, so the Grey went and asked the mantis being with the authority for permission to allow that, and they said that no, the abductee has to go back to Earth.
Do you think they have emotions where they come down and connect with human beings and want to stay?
I don't know, but from the encounters that I've been reading, the people sense that the mantis beings like to have humans and hybrids have sexual relations, and it's almost as if they absorb energetically off of that to experience it. They get something from that.
Emotion, more of a
Well, I guess maybe emotions too. They seem to study a lot of human different emotions. Fear. Is something burning?
Okay, so yesterday when we were listening to David Jacobs, I kind of went on a little bit of a rampage in thinking that if these hybrids or insectoids are coming and disguising themselves as humans, that maybe they are running from something. And that thought in itself is kind of scary, because if they're running from something, what is coming after them? And if they are assimilating and looking like us, then are we in just as much danger as they may be from whoever is chasing them?
Yeah, and that's the scary thought, because when you think that the top of the food chain is a mantis, you're already in the twilight zone. So let's roll with it. It's already a dream. I believe life is a dream, anyways, and this is a weird disc I chose to flip into the life experience that I'm living right now.
Listening to this, they're already,
Capable of accepting alternate views of life. Yeah. And what was burning, sorry, was asparagus we were making for dinner. Sorry, we paused it for a minute. It didn't burn though, so it's gonna it's edible. But so yeah, if they are blending their genes in with humans, are they hiding from something? And George Norrie, the host of Coast to Coast right now, he believes that it also is a replacement program. That's a strong word, replacement program. And plus, with my view of, the peak in population after thousands of years, it has to inevitably go back down, because when I was an intern for a professor and I was helping with different genetic research, he was doing it with the trap gene on Bacillus subtilis. So we would grow a lot of bacteria to extract the DNA, and then they would all have to die because they would all eat up the nutrients and the resources, and then inevitably it goes back down to flatlining the population levels. So it makes sense, everything is kind of relational. Parts of the holograph show the whole of the holograph. So really, the peak of human population, extracting a mass variety of the DNA so that you don't have problems in the future, or that you get a very good selection of the different possibilities, or you use it for something else, and then we're going to flatline. And the most ideal thing to do once it flatlines is everything seems to be coinciding. Even in a dream, just if you take a step back like a chess game, you look at it from a dream perspective where you don't have to worry about it making sense to deny it. It seems like that's the most logical progression, because all these abduction scenarios that we've been having, all these UFO sightings, with the main explanation being a hybrid program, and all these people with a lot of experience in the field and authority like George Norrie, David Jacobs, them being really disapproving of the end outcome, then it does seem like once the current generation, the human race flatlines, which it has to no matter what, then the replacement program will ensue. And it's almost like it's planned, which would seem almost also right on the level with our God figure, because end times type stuff.
Why would, if they have the ability to at least somewhat look like us, I'm thinking, why would they show themselves to people in their original form? Why wouldn't they come here looking like humans? Yeah. Why would they appear?
They can mask themselves to humans too until they become more comfortable with them and reveal their true mantis-looking selves. They can.
Why would they show up on a camping trip in the form of a gray or a?
Oh, it's a hybrid of a human.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they appear as humans? And why would they?
Scare people. They mixed.
They don't need to.
The mantis with the humans to make the gray hybrid as the worker drones, basically. And the reasoning that they
Human?
did that, well, you'd think they could. Maybe they don't want to spend the mental resources doing it. Maybe they just don't care. They did trial and error and saw that it's just as effective to achieve their ends without having to
Or maybe that's part of the process needed
expend
to
energy
affect a human.
disguising. Yeah. But the reasoning for the creation of the Greys, instead of just bringing enough mantises over to work for them, was because it would be too much resources to, bring over that many mantises. So when they got here, if it was a distant journey or something, they just used their technology to mass produce a bunch of Greys to do the groundwork for them.
Did David ever say if he thought they were coming from up above or down below or where or another dimension entirely?
He mentions that he doesn't know because all we know is from abductees' experiences, and he says it could be extra dimensional beings, it could be beings from a different world, which who knows what that is. I guess space could just be the other domed Earth type lands.
Yeah.
That could be where they point to when they say they're from a different world.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they are even all connected. I mean, he believes that the mantises are ruling, but maybe the Greys come from another place and the mantises come from yet another place. Maybe they're working together. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I want to believe that just to have some kind of resolution to the whole origins and hierarchies of it, I would like to have trust in people that have been studying it with first-hand encounters with the abductees for decades, that the top is mantises, because the Greys, it makes sense. You have to follow logic. The Greys look like a mix between a mantis and a human with vestigial appendages and features.
Now, I don't know too much about regressive hypnotherapy, but David says that he trusts that a lot more than he trusts the conscious mind. Do you think while you're in that hypnotic state, it's like a dream and it could be false information, or do you think like what David thinks is it's like a truth serum?
I've never been regressively hypnotized, so I don't know.
In a dream state, you can make up anything.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. They say that the mind never forgets anything unless it's probably forcibly censored or removed. But I think it's legit. I mean, if we're even saying that there are UFOs or lights in the sky, then you gotta, accept what the common consensus is, sort of. But okay, well, I still want to stay on let's go with the Twilight Zone episode of they're here to hide from something. So if they're here hiding, something's chasing them, or
Get a bunker down.
maybe the other group can't destroy humans. That's why they want to hide with humans.
No, I was gonna say maybe this is a safe zone that this other group can't get beyond the barrier, but
Then they could just overtake this dome and proliferate with their own species. I don't know. It kind of makes more sense that we failed with this generation. They're coming in to tweak our personalities and behaviors for the next trial. That we effed up. We did. Man, I condone it. I don't care. We effed up with what we do. Priests, hypocrisies, parents being authoritative figures and not allowing their kids to even question anything or counter with logic. Truth should reign supreme, and it does not. We're all too selfish. They say that the mantises have more of a group mindset. If you have a group mindset, then you care more about what's going on with another person. I myself have a group mindset. I think about how my actions are going to affect everything around me, and everything I do that is deleterious, that's intentional because somebody else is first acting negative. But any action I make, I think about the consequences on other people because I care a lot about what other people are going through. And it seems like most of the people in this current generation and age completely disregard it. It's all about me. They had their chance, according to this Twilight Zone episode of life, and we're all in a dream, but had their chance, and that's a life lesson. But it's not even a lesson because the current gene code's over. And yet we're still living, though, so it's not like we're completely over. I don't know why we should be happy, because it's like, if we think that the mantises are all gone, then who cares about them overtaking? Because they're not overtaking. They're mixing what we were with what they are to make something that's probably going to be more...
Maybe that's those few good people that you see amongst the
more
world,
empathetic with the other organisms that were around.
Yeah, maybe those few good people that you see are the hybrids trying to implement a new thought process in humanity. Because if you think about it, it is a general consensus that regardless where you think these beings come from, those who have said they've had, contact with them, these beings are coming to tell us that we are ruining our world. That seems to be a common trend.
Yeah. And it seems like they were clinging. They were just kind of like pleading on their knees to this current generation of human-like organisms to go in a different path and to, reconsider our ways. But we obviously haven't done that. And humans shouldn't even be mad about this, because we're going to continue on. It's basically the same as mixing with a Caucasian and an Asian gene line. A lot of people that are, kind of stupid, basically, care a lot about that. Yeah, it seems bad that we'd be losing our features, but we're not completely losing our species. We're not. We're being a lot. We should be more calm about it, because they're kind of choosing, from that perspective, they're choosing to amplify our awareness and our spiritual. It could be spiritual, because the whole goal of spirituality is to learn to love and accept. And I mean, a lot of them say this is gonna be bad, but I mean, we shouldn't be that completely livid about it, because basically it's almost like we're being chosen to progress into the future. It's just, we're being tweaked for improvement, unless there's another theory, which Christians might be, that might be the explanation, that they're hiding and blending in. But I don't see why they do that when they could just completely overtake us, unless, who knows? Why, if it was God saying you can't completely destroy them, you can only tweak them, or there's some intergalactic rule that you can't interfere too much, well, why would they even be allowed to abduct a single person ever?
Well, that makes me think, I wonder, maybe it is spiritual, because God gave free will, and so maybe he's actually sending these people down, and that's why they can't completely alter us, because he won't give them the ability to change our free will.
Maybe. Yeah, but it's so scientific. It's so like kind of, like the way they do it, instead of God just waving his hand and saying, okay, or whatever. But it's so like the whole flat earth thing, and viewing it as, like Mark Sargent says, as a program, a video game thing. This is so in line with that, from like a mathematical, scientific perspective for how to tweak it. And a lot of the investigators of abduction phenomenons, they say, yeah, when you have this experience, it's like the curtain got pulled back and oops, you saw what's really going on. So obviously, if the memories are being wiped out, then we're not supposed to see what's going on for the next line. So maybe there is no God. Maybe God in a supreme omniscient type of way. Maybe it is all scientific, with creators that are all dependent upon technology, which to me isn't that impressive.
So do you think if their coming to Earth was pre-planned, or do you think it was one of those things where they said, "Oh, they're messing up. We gotta send help"?
I think everything was known. I think everything was planned prior and understood and known.
Man,
So I don't think it's a reaction to anything that we did. I think that they did give us chances along the way. It's more of the way things are being laid out. It's more of an experiment. That's the only thing that makes sense in my mind. It's just an experiment. They, they don't want to have to quit this current phase, this current generation, this version of humans. They don't want to have to quit it and start from scratch. That's why all the warnings. That's why all the pleading with Jesus and with the current attempts and trials with different thought forms and different religions to see if that would work. No. We keep failing and we keep acting completely subhuman and worse than any animal that most people know, because we consciously enjoy and know the deep decrepitness that is our drug.
and if any of you that have made it to this point listening have any thoughts of your own, we would welcome the comments at the bottom. Let us know, what do you think? Where do they come from? What is their purpose? Have you had any experiences? It'd be interesting to hear from a listener's perspective.
So to get back to the crossroads of, is it a spiritual phenomenon where if you pray to God, you are protected, and it's more of a jinn explanation, like I think Rosemary Guile or whatever her name is.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote the book The Jinn Connection. Or is it scientific, technology based, and all ones and zero explanations? It's strange that Adam Ambrose, he was on Coast to Coast. There's some of the abduction experiences vary, because he said that when he's been abducted his whole life, and when he was on the ship, he saw his friend they were both abducted, and his friend seemed like he was getting hurt on a table or something, so he got up and he was trying to help him out, and he was being restrained by 5 grays, and then he hit one in the face, and he said it's almost as if it indented the black eye and the gray face as if it was a plastic covering. So then that completely contradicts a solid physiological hybrid face, because they say the evidence that it's not a face is because hybrids down the line between grays and other humans, they still retain the large eyes and the small mouth and the narrow jaw. So it's not a mask, according to the train of thought that it's all scientific and human. So if it is a mask, then that could be spiritual. It could be some other entity underneath it. And plus, if they are varied, then that's an inconsistency that makes it more spiritual and demonic. And as in John Keel said at the end of his career, that the alien phenomenon and the Men in Black phenomenon are the same interdimensional, non-physical beings that have been playing tricks on humans for all eternity. They just change their phase every generation. So I guess it would take more looking into to see how varied the reports of the actual material bodies of the grays and the mantises are.
I'm wondering, has anyone explored the idea that it comes from Earth itself? When you think of a scientific or technological aspect, could we be making these our own, an attempt to maybe, yeah, the government or different governments, maybe an attempt to create the perfect military? No?
But I would rather have it be a spiritual phenomenon, because Aleister Crowley, when he was speaking to some demon that he would communicate with, and he drew a photo of what it looked exactly like an alien gray. And a lot of people, they use the evidence, or they use that as evidence for it just being a demonic phenomenon. I would rather have it be that way, because I'm mostly a spiritual person, and I've found empowerment through praying to God and understanding spirituality more and stuff like that. So I would rather have it be that, because that's something that you can work with. That's something that, I guess, if you connect to God, who's the supreme, then you can overpower it. And everybody wants to sleep better at night by feeling like they're overpowering the predominant threat in their life, which to me is, something that is at the top of the food chain, which is the mantises. And it does seem like it follows that spiritual aspect, because a lot of the times I've read in different investigators' documentations that people that seem to be when they're about to be abducted, or when there's about to when there's going to be like some force or some change from the grays, they have a fog that juts towards them. And I remember there's when people would see a mist during the medieval times, that's the next week or something, the plague would pass through and kill a bunch of people, or they'd see these strange shadow tall beings that went through.
What do you think the fog is? Could that be the opening of some sort of interdimensional portal? Or why fog?
I don't know. I think it's probably just a blob mass of some type of energies that go and do the changes from the mindsets and the wills of the unseen beings.
Do you think that they have specific personalities or specific people that they present to? I know they usually come in remote areas, which kind of makes sense not to be seen. But think of all the people that have camped in remote areas and have not seen other beings. Is there a reason that people that do, are they chosen for some reason to see what they see?
Well, yeah, studying psychology and spirituality and the abduction phenomenon, they say it's always generational. And from the religious aspect, curses are generational. So a lot of behaviors are generational. Some people that are flashers, like that go and wear a trench coat and then flash, they feel the urge to do that. They don't even know that their parents did it, and then at the end of their life, they reveal that to them. So things seem to be intergenerational, and it does seem like with people that are abducted, they're kind of less connected to God and more weak and prone or prey to their desires, sort of. And I've also heard that there's some group that said if you want to protect yourself or stop the abduction experiences, then to let go of the enjoyable parts of it that you sense you're feeling, or the it's kind of sinful, indulgent parts that you feel are connecting you to it. And when I heard that, it was like, that's so connected to demon, infiltration or possession or encounters. So that's why it seems kind of like it would be more connected to a spiritual explanation, which gives me hope. And also, the human race has been living for so long, but the one thing that is different is the peak in population right now. I mean, there's so many things that match up with this. It's not like it's just a phenomenon that, seems like it could be in our heads and we're just, doing this to ourselves mentally and psychologically. A lot of the things in life really seem to be matching up with the ends, that they're all interconnected and inter-explaining of each other. But I'm hoping it's spiritual.
Then by spiritual, I'm thinking, does that mean that they're coming for good purposes? And because most people, I think, when you talk to, well, maybe not most, but a lot of abductees are afraid. They don't get like a welcoming sense. You would think if it was spiritual by some sort of higher power that has good intentions, that they would come with this energy of calming and peace. But a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, that's very true, which would kind of explain the frightening ghost of Christmas past type of encounters. But I would like to, yeah, it's, you think it would, if it was, not,
Threatening in any way.
yeah, threatening, then it would be more positive, I guess, yeah.
So then it makes me think it could be spiritual, but it could be from the other side. You never know. I mean, this could be under the guise of coming in, blending in with the human race to do something that isn't positive. Because I would think if it were some sort of God or higher loving power, that they would create an environment where people would feel at ease and feel calm, and I'm just not seeing that. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And some of the abductees, they say they're like I mentioned before, they're RH negative or something. Who knows what's with that? That's the touchy subject, because who knows how long that's been in the human race. And plus, some of the people that have it, they've been kind of clan-like, so they've been sticking together, kind of like Amish people. And a lot of times they've got genetic defects from sticking together for so long. So they're sticking together for some reason. Doesn't mean that they're non-human. It just means that they're a different group, But they've got their own problems from that. So it doesn't mean that there's some perfected alien group. They're just stubborn. But to have the explanation that certain things are alien is a touchy subject, because that can cause, extreme prejudice and extreme fright from stupid commoners that don't, have any empathy outside of their own selfish interests. It's like they're only empathetic for me, and me ain't important, especially when you die and the flesh is weak and the soul is immortal, supposedly. So yeah.
do you think that either our government or any government out there, have actually gotten their hands on one of these praying mantises or greys, dissected, and discovered what actually is inside, where they came from, found answers, and has not shared it with the general public?
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's definitely possible. Plus, they say that they've got kind of a technology sharing program or something like that, and on genetic understandings for how all of a sudden we're getting all these insights into genomes and stuff like that. And plus the hybrids that they talk about at the Dulce, New Mexico base. And
You think maybe aliens have been coming to Earth for so many years that it would explain the wonders of the world, things that have been built that nobody can explain why they're so precise? Maybe it's been aliens visiting for quite some time.
yeah, I guess I don't I guess, yeah. So basically, this is another facet for what could help us learn or connect to what's at the center of the earth, because eventually me and Kristen would like to go there. We want to do a tour of the abduction alien phenomenon zone of from Arizona down to Roswell and Dulce, New Mexico, Sedona, all that type of stuff. Maybe contact some people beforehand, get to talk to them, get a better grasp of what the truth is. And that will hopefully lead us to, I believe the Garden of Eden would be in the center of the earth, because all that I read, all that I sense, we were kicked out of there for some reason, because we sinned, selfishness, disobeyed, ate the forbidden fruit. So I would like to, get a better grasp or communicate, speak with the next level, because it's like I feel like I'm stuck here at my 9 to 5 job, speaking with people that all they care about is gossiping and feeling like they're at the top of the food chain of this super small 5-person pond in the department in the hospital or wherever you're working at, convenience store. And to me, this is not the type of levels of consciousness that I want to be around. So my goal is to kind of meet the next level up to experience more and, I guess accomplish the goal of understanding what's at the center of the earth spiritually. Because honestly, if it is a hybrid program, I think that's pretty pathetic. If it's really some material physical mantis, I would laugh at it and be like, this is such a joke, do whatever you're gonna do. But I mean, spiritually, it doesn't really have any significance for me. And again, if you guys have any comments or questions or input or thoughts or corrections, most importantly, then please let us know. We'll also be looking for maybe some guests that are experienced with this type of area to help us understand more. And all right, until next time, here's Tony. Tony
and Kristen. Have a good day, guys.